Someone is going to watch the first 30 seconds of this video and feel genuinely angry at what I am about to say. Because I am going to dismantle one of the most repeated, most shared, most beloved claims in the entire alternative housing space. The idea that you can build a fully functional Earthship home for $10,000 to $15,000. That number is everywhere. It gets shared on forums, in YouTube videos, in blogs, in comment sections, and every single time someone serious about building sees it, they make plans around it, they save toward it, they buy land based on it, and then reality hits them like a wall of packed tires. The $10,000 Earthship is not a lie exactly. It is a story about one very specific build in one very specific set of circumstances, with free land, with unpaid labor from dozens of volunteers, with a regulatory environment that required zero permits, and with a level of material creativity that most builders cannot replicate. For the other 95% of people who want to build an Earthship in 2026, that number is a fantasy that sets them up for failure. But here is what nobody is giving you. The real number. The honest, current, thoroughly researched, line-by-line breakdown of what it actually costs to build a real Earthship in 2026, under realistic conditions, for a realistic household. That is what this video is. And I promise you that by the end, you will have a clearer, more accurate, and ultimately more useful picture of Earthship building economics than you have ever had before. Stay with me because the final section of this video reveals the single most important number that nobody ever puts in an Earthship cost breakdown, and it changes everything about how you plan your build. If you are trying to understand the true economics of off-grid and alternative building in 2026, this channel gives you the honest numbers that most content creators are too afraid to share because they think the truth will discourage you. It will not. It will prepare you. Subscribe right now and hit the notification bell because every video I make is built around giving you the information that actually gets builds finished. Now let us get into the real cost. Why the real cost matters more than ever in 2026. Before I give you the numbers, I want to establish why this conversation is especially important in 2026 specifically. The economic context has shifted significantly. Housing prices in the United States and across most of the developed world have continued to escalate. The average conventional home in many American markets now costs between $300,000 and $500,000, and the mortgage payment on that home at current interest rates is financially crushing for the median household. This is the pressure that is driving more people toward alternative building than at any previous point in the Earthship movement's history. At the same time, material costs have continued their post-pandemic trend. Lumber prices have stabilized somewhat from their peak volatility but remain elevated compared to 2019 levels. Concrete is more expensive. Metal roofing is more expensive. Glass and glazing materials have increased in cost. And while solar panels have continued their long-term cost decline, which genuinely helps the Earthship builder, almost everything else in the construction supply chain costs more in 2026 than it did 5 years ago. Land prices in the regions most suitable for Earthship building have also changed dramatically. Rural land in New Mexico, Arizona, West Texas, and southern Colorado that sold for $3,000 to $6,000 per acre 5 years ago is now frequently priced at $10,000 to $20,000 per acre, and in some desirable areas considerably more than that. All of this context matters because many of the Earthship cost estimates that are still circulating online and in books are based on builds from 2010 to 2018 when material costs, land costs, and labor costs were substantially lower. If you are making build decisions based on those old numbers in 2026, you are setting yourself up for a serious budget crisis. The land cost that everyone forgets. The single most overlooked cost in almost every Earthship budget breakdown is the land itself. Most of the famous low-cost builds happened on inherited land, gifted land, or land purchased years or decades earlier at dramatically lower prices. When that variable is removed from the conversation, the total project cost becomes more honest. In 2026, purchasing suitable land for an Earthship in the American Southwest, meaning land with good solar access, reasonable slope for berming, adequate rainfall potential, and a regulatory environment that permits alternative construction, costs between $15,000 and $40,000 for a parcel of 3 to 10 acres depending on the specific location, water rights, road access, and proximity to services. If you are looking at southern Colorado, land with appropriate characteristics typically runs $20,000 to $50,000 for a usable parcel. Rural New Mexico in the areas that have established Earthship communities can still be found in the $15,000 to $30,000 range in less popular areas. West Texas remains among the more affordable options with suitable land available in the $12,000 to $25,000 range in many areas. These numbers are real. They are based on current listings, not historical pricing. And they need to be in your budget before you add a single material cost. The design and permit costs. The design and permitting phase is another area where first-time builders consistently underestimate what they will actually spend. A quality set of Earthship plans from Earthship Biotecture starts at approximately $3,000 to $5,000 for entry-level package plans and scales up to $8,000 to $12,000 for more custom design packages. Independent Earthship designers charge between $1,500 and $4,000 depending on their experience and the complexity of your project. If your jurisdiction requires a structural engineering stamp, and many do in 2026, that adds between $1,500 and $4,000 to your design costs. Building permits for alternative construction in counties that are familiar with the Earthship concept typically run between $500 and $2,000 in fees. In counties that have no experience with tire wall construction, the permitting process can be significantly more complex, require additional engineering reports, soil studies, and potentially legal consultations, pushing total permitting costs to $5,000 to $10,000 or more. Total realistic design and permit budget for a 2026 Earthship build, $3,000 to $12,000 depending on your jurisdiction and your design source. The materials cost, the real breakdown. Here is where most cost discussions live, and here is where the most damage is done by outdated or oversimplified estimates. Let me give you the genuine 2026 material cost picture category by category. Foundation materials including rubble trench gravel, concrete bond beam, rebar, and drainage pipe for a 1,200 square foot Earthship runs approximately $3,500 to $5,500 in 2026. This includes equipment rental for the foundation excavation. Tire wall materials cost almost nothing for the tires themselves if you source them correctly from tire shops that are paying to dispose of them. The real costs here are fuel for collection runs at $200 to $600, cob infill materials at $800 to $1,500, and tools for packing at $300 to $700. Total tire wall materials including everything except the tires, approximately $1,500 to $3,000. Roof structure and waterproofing is one of the higher material cost categories. Dimensional lumber for roof framing runs $2,000 to $4,000 for a 1,200 square foot build. Metal roofing panels, the preferred material for rainwater catchment, cost $2,500 to $4,500 in materials. Roofing underlayment, insulation, and waterproofing membrane add another $800 to $1,500. Total roof materials, approximately $5,500 to $10,000. South-facing glazing is consistently one of the most significant variables in Earthship build costs. New double-pane low-emissivity glass panels for the south wall of a 1,200 square foot Earthship, properly sized for passive solar performance, cost $8,000 to $16,000 if purchased new from commercial suppliers. Salvage sourcing can reduce this dramatically, sometimes to $2,000 to $5,000, but salvage sourcing requires time, geographic luck, and the willingness to adapt your design around what you find. Solar and electrical system costs have benefited from the continuing decline in panel pricing. A complete off-grid solar system appropriate for a 1,200 square foot efficient Earthship lifestyle, including panels, battery bank, charge controller, inverter, and all wiring components, runs $7,000 to $13,000 in equipment costs in 2026. After the 30% federal residential clean energy tax credit, the net cost is approximately $5,000 to $9,000. Add licensed electrician final connection fees of $800 to $2,000. Water system including cisterns, pump, filtration, and all plumbing rough-in and finish work costs $6,000 to $12,000 depending on cistern capacity, fixture count, and whether you source any salvaged plumbing components. Waste system costs vary enormously based on your jurisdiction. A composting toilet plus gray water garden installation runs $900 to $2,500. A conventional septic system required in many jurisdictions costs $3,500 to $8,000. Interior finish materials including earth and plaster raw materials, flooring materials, interior doors, cabinetry, and miscellaneous finish items run $3,000 to $8,000 depending heavily on how aggressively you salvage and how many finish elements you make yourself versus purchase. Miscellaneous costs including tools you need to buy or rent throughout the build, safety equipment, fasteners, adhesives, sealants, and the 100 small purchases that accumulate reliably run $3,000 to $6,000 across a full build. The labor question and why it changes everything. Here is the variable that makes Earthship cost estimates so wildly inconsistent across different sources. Labor. The difference between a fully owner-built DIY Earthship and a professionally contracted Earthship is approximately $100,000 in most cases. That is the financial value of your own labor and the labor of your volunteer network. An owner-built 1,200 square foot Earthship in the American Southwest in 2026, where the builder does all unskilled labor themselves and organizes volunteer work parties for the tire packing phase, and hires professionals only for the skilled licensed work such as electrical inspection and septic installation, can be completed for approximately $55,000 to $85,000 in total cash outlay, including land, design, permits, and all materials. The same Earthship built by a professional contractor or a professional managed project where the owner is not contributing significant personal labor costs, approximately $150,000 to $250,000 total. This is still potentially competitive with conventional home construction in many markets, but it is a fundamentally different financial proposition than the $50,000 DIY version. The labor math that nobody talks about openly is that every dollar you save by doing the work yourself comes directly from your time. A motivated, dedicated owner-builder working part-time while maintaining another job typically takes 12 to 24 months to complete a 1,200 square foot Earthship. The tire packing phase alone, at approximately 2 to 3 tires per person per hour, requires roughly 300 to 400 hours of tire packing labor for a full build. That is a staggering physical commitment, and it is honest to name it clearly. The hidden costs that destroy budgets. Beyond the standard line items, there are several categories of cost that consistently appear in real Earthship builds and consistently get left out of the inspirational budget breakdowns. Temporary living costs during the build are real and significant. If you are renting or paying a mortgage somewhere else while you build, every month your build takes is another month of housing cost on top of your build budget. For a builder paying $1,500 per month in rent over an 18-month build, that is $27,000 in additional housing cost that belongs in the true project budget. Land improvement costs including road access, water well if needed, utility connection for construction power if used, site clearing, and initial grading beyond the basic building footprint often run $2,000 to $8,000 and are not typically included in per square foot cost estimates. Material delivery costs for rural sites can be substantial. A site with limited road access or significant distance from material suppliers adds delivery charges that accumulate across multiple categories. Budget $500 to $2,000 for delivery premiums depending on your site's accessibility. Build timeline overrun costs are nearly universal. Virtually every first-time Earthship build takes longer than planned. Weather delays, material sourcing delays, learning curve time on unfamiliar skills, and the simple reality that complex integrated systems take more time to coordinate than a building schedule suggests, all conspire to extend timelines. Every additional month adds costs in tool rental, material storage, temporary living, and project management. The honest total picture for 2026. Here is the number that nobody says clearly and that I promised you at the beginning. The honest all-in cost of building a real Earthship in 2026, including land, design, permits, all materials, licensed professional fees for skilled trades, and miscellaneous costs, for a 1,200 square foot build in the American Southwest by a dedicated owner-builder contributing significant personal labor, is between $75,000 and $110,000. That range assumes you are buying land at current prices, designing from a legitimate source, building in a jurisdiction that accommodates alternative construction without excessive additional engineering requirements, sourcing materials creatively but not miraculously, doing the tire packing and finish work yourself with volunteer help, and hiring licensed professionals only for the work that requires them. For the same build with a professional contractor managing all labor, the number is $150,000 to $250,000. That is not a failure of the Earthship concept. For a home that will have near zero operating costs for its entire life, both of these numbers represent extraordinary long-term value compared to a conventional mortgage. But they are honest numbers, and honest numbers are the foundation of successful builds. The cost that makes it all worth it. Here is the final piece of context that every Earthship cost conversation needs to include. The operational cost of living in a well-built Earthship is genuinely extraordinary. No electricity bill. No water bill. No gas bill. No sewer bill. Minimal to zero heating and cooling cost. These ongoing costs in a conventional home in the American Southwest typically run $12,000 to $20,000 per year when you add up utilities, maintenance, and the cost of mechanical heating and cooling systems. Over 20 years, that is $240,000 to $400,000 that an Earthship owner does not pay. When you factor in the lifetime operational savings, the higher upfront cost of a real 2026 Earthship build is not just financially defensible. It is financially superior to almost any conventional housing path available today. The honest cost is not the discouraging story. The honest cost is the beginning of a compelling financial argument that actually stands up when you look at the full picture. If this gave you real numbers you can actually plan with, please hit the like button because it helps this content reach more people who need it. Subscribe for more honest, current deep dives into the real economics of alternative and sustainable building in 2026. Drop a comment below and tell me whether these numbers surprised you, and tell me where you are in your own build planning. I respond to every single comment personally. See you in the next one.